This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
Hi, this is Mark Hayward from the Absolute Business Mindset podcast and YouTube channel. So today I'm just going to quickly go through a potted version of podcasting. I thought it was quite interesting. I did some details on this fairly recently and I thought I'd share them with you. So podcasting has its roots in the 1980s before the World Wide Web. It was definitely a niche area of audio recordings that was used primarily for educational and research institutes. So definitely a niche when it started. The first internet radio was in 1993, where Carl Malamud recorded interviews with computer experts. Now, it got to the 90s and it started to move a little bit forward because the advent of Napster, the file sharing, legal file sharing in the 1990s meant that sharing music and podcasts were much more available. And MP3 players started helping the distribution of podcasts as well. Now we fast forward slightly to iTunes in 2003, where it basically meant that podcasts could reach a wider audience because people started buying iPods, laptops, desktops were able to listen to it. So it meant that distribution was a lot more freely available. In this time, just to give you a scale, the Ricky Gervais show was one of the most popular podcasts that were running at the time. And they hit a high of 4.5 million downloads, which was a record at that time. So we then... So it meant that podcasts became more available and more in number of people's interest. But you really need to fast forward quite a long way to 2014, where there's been the modern era of podcasts, where a lot more interest, and you started getting people like Tim Ferriss, some of my favourites, Tim Ferriss, James Altucher, Rob Moore, etc. They all started post 2014, which is actually only 6 years ago. So it's actually been a fast increase that people are more interested in podcasts than they were. So podcasts like Joe Rogan and Serial, the true crimes podcast, really sort of expanded the reach that they had. And the Serial podcast has a record of 420 million downloads. Now I think Joe Rogan has surpassed that now, but it just shows you the wide reach that people are now listening on their phones, on their laptops, on transitions. So I listen to my podcast on transitions when I'm traveling to work and back, and when I'm walking the dog or going for a walk, and the gym as well. So what I found is that the popularity of podcasts has diversified. Now people can record it in their garage or their loft with few costs. So I think that there are now podcasts which can be for any niche. Anything that you're interested in, there is almost definitely a podcast on. So it really is a devolved medium, which I think is incredibly powerful and incredibly amazing to be involved in. So I'm very proud and very happy to be recording podcast for you. So as I said, that's just a quick potted version, review of the podcast history. I thought it was interesting and I wanted to share it with you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.